Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Your host today is founder and president of Top Mexico Real Estate, Thomas Lloyd. Thomas Lloyd is a graduate of Purdue University Craner School of Management. He's been working professionally in Mexico since 1995, and in 2011, he was the first person ever to obtain a national regulated real estate degree in Mexico. Thomas founded Top Mexico Real Estate to ensure American and Canadians have the best experience when purchasing and investing in real estate in Mexico. Welcome to this webinar, and let's get started.
We've been speaking a lot about real estate opportunities in Mexico, and particularly La Paz, and how certain coastal cities are beginning to attract long-term international attention. But what's interesting is most people still don't actually know what La Paz is. It's not Cancun, it's not Cabo, and that's exactly the point. So today, instead of me telling you about it, I wanted to bring someone who didn't come to La Paz as an investor or even as a traveler looking for a destination, but someone who actually discovered a completely different life there by accident. Brighton West is with us today. He's an American who, together with his wife, originally began what they thought were simple winter escapes from Portland, first to California, then eventually south of the border. Today, Brighton lives in La Paz. He runs a private tour company and shares his experiences through his YouTube channel called Almost Retired, which now has over 55,000 subscribers. Good job. So Brighton, welcome. I want to start at the very beginning. How did you even end up discovering La Paz in the first place?
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me here. And I'm excited to chat with your audience. And yeah, it's an interesting story. So we live in Portland, Oregon. We still live part-time in Portland, Oregon. But if anyone knows Portland, it is a very, very rainy, kind of depressing winter that lasts from like 9 months out of the year or something is winter here, it seems. So we would, when my wife and I were both working, I worked for myself and my wife was a contractor. So we both could work remotely. And so we started actually spending time in Southern California, first in LA and then down in San Diego, and living close to the beach, really loving life down there, just spending, like I said, 1 month, 2 months, and really spending an awful lot of money to do that because those are expensive places, especially where we were going. We were really close to the beach and pricey places. And so for my wife's birthday in late February of 2020, we decided to take a trip down to Mexico. And I had never heard of La Paz. I just read about it in just one article online. And they had some good pictures, and I was like, okay, well, let's see if we could go to this place. It seems like an easy flight over from Tijuana. And Tijuana, the airport, has an entrance on the U.S. side, so you can get anywhere in Mexico really, really cheap. It is one of the best things about Tijuana is that airport and the accessibility to San Diego. So we took, spent $100 to do a round trip flight down to La Paz. And we immediately fell in love. And it was the most amazing place. It's where the desert meets the ocean. And I think we must have arrived on a Sunday because the Malecón was just bustling. And the Malecón is kind of the boardwalk along the ocean there, right through downtown. And we had a hotel right there, right on the Malecón. And on Sunday in general is family day in Mexico. Sunday night is when the Malecón really comes alive with families. So there's people driving their cars like 3 miles per hour down the Malecón, and there's loud music. It's very Mexico. And there's a lot of Mexicans walking down the Malecón with multi-generational families and kids on scooters. And it just really, we don't have kids, but it really felt good to us. So we actually reached out to a real estate agent then, and he took us over to a couple of houses, and we fell in love with the first one. And we realized, it was going to be cheaper to buy a house in Mexico than it was going to be to keep spending money on these trips to San Diego. And so we just pulled the trigger. And then a couple of weeks later, the pandemic happened. So that was pretty much the story of how we got there.
Well, you ended up at a good place during the coronavirus, didn't you?
Yes, exactly. It was so nice because in Portland during the winters, especially, like everything inside was closed. Whereas in Mexico, the way they dealt with the pandemic was very different. It was still very controlled, but because so many restaurants are outside, they just had to spread their tables out more as the pandemic got worse in a local area. They kind of, I don't know if you remember, they had like this stoplight system or something where if there were a lot of people in the hospitals and there was a lot of COVID spreading in a population or in a state, then they would have to spread those tables out more and more, and they'd close certain things. But it was really nice. And we have a little postage stamp lot here in Portland in the city. Down in Mexico, we have a half acre. And it's right there on the beach. So it was really a wonderful place to spend COVID, especially during the winters.
Absolutely. Awesome. And how's the pace of the city? Is it like Cancun or Cabo? A lot of people, a lot of tourists, or how would you describe the pace?
The pace is slow. And I've heard this also from folks on the mainland when they come over to La Paz, just they're like, oh my God, the drivers are so slow here. And I think if you look back historically at La Paz, it was a fishing village, and it has the life of a fisherman is to go out, fish for as much fish as he thinks he's going to sell that day. And as soon as he's got that, the rest of, he goes and sells his fish. The rest of the day he takes off. And so that is the attitude of the town. And sometimes that can be frustrating if you're trying to get some things done. I think it's kind of beyond other places in Mexico that have that kind of slow pace. It has a very slow pace. And if you can adjust to that, it can be really, really enjoyable.
Awesome. Okay, now that you're living and you're obviously you're working down there, what are you seeing more tourists just like you that are discovering the and they're starting to come down, or in your words, how do you see it?
Yeah, well, I did look online, and tourism is up like 20% this year, foreign tourism, but it's hard. I live outside the city, so I'm not there every day. I know there's about maybe one cruise ship that comes through every week, so it's nothing like Cabo or Cancun where cruise ships are just coming in multiple at a time. It's not a popular cruise destination. It's not a really good cruise port. There are some smaller ships that come through, and I think that is really what the city of La Paz and those of us who live there are looking for. I think there's like a National Geographic cruise that comes through, and it might have 100 passengers, and it docks right in the middle of downtown because it's such a small ship. And it's people who are interested in what La Paz has to offer, the nature, the culture, the scuba diving, the snorkeling, things like that. There are no all-inclusive resorts in La Paz.
Awesome.
I don't know of any timeshares in La Paz. It is very much a place that people go for Mexican culture and the natural environment. And a lot of what the tourism in La Paz is Mexicans. So there's a lot of national tourism, people coming from Mexico City, Guadalajara. The airport has, I think, just one flight to the United States. I think it goes to LAX, from La Paz to LAX. I don't know if they have any going to Canada right now. Compare that to, 2.5 hours away is Cabo San Lucas, and they have flights pretty much everywhere. So La Paz is a little bit harder to get to. And so it's not the destination for someone who's super casual, just wants to go somewhere, get somewhere that's cheaper, somewhere that has, margaritas that you can just sit by a pool and have someone deliver the margaritas to you. It's not that type of atmosphere. It's very much closer to real Mexico. Yep. And also the nature there is what people are coming for.
And that trend is growing, isn't it? Don't you? I know, I feel it. I'm over here on the Yucatan Peninsula, and that type of tourism, unique experiences, it appears to be growing. I assume that's exactly how you're describing it.
Yeah, I think that's why La Paz is becoming more popular, because it's people who are looking for something special. And And not that there's anything wrong with going to the pool and having your margaritas delivered to you poolside, but it's not the type of thing that many people are looking for. I think that's a growing part of the tourism industry, that kind of, I don't want to call it ecotourism, but kind of ecotourism, smaller ships and more personalized adventures.
Yeah. And you mentioned a couple of some people coming from the States and Canada, and those parts, they're not just coming from LA, but they're coming from other parts. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, definitely. It's mostly in terms of the foreigners that I know. The biggest chunk is from the West Coast of the United States and Canada. So from Vancouver down to San Diego, lots of folks from Oregon, lots of folks from Washington. But I do see people from Nova Scotia or from Boston and from Wisconsin, from Chicago. So there are people who are making it down to La Paz. I think it's people who really want to make it to La Paz because it is a harder place to get to. It is not something where you can just, if I wanted to go to Cabo, I could probably get a ticket tomorrow and fly direct down to Cabo and be there. If you want to go to La Paz, you have to jump through a couple more hoops. So, and that works pretty well for the city. I think some people are frustrated by that, but also it maintains the city the way it is. And there are lots and lots of flights from inside Mexico. So it stays more as that Mexican tourist destination. And so it maintains some of the culture that I think has disappeared from places like Cabo or Cancun.
Now, what is the distance from La Paz to the Cabo to that airport? How long of a drive?
So it's about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
So and you can there's a bus that leaves directly from the airport and takes you directly downtown into La Paz. That costs about $35 or something. There's you can get a private driver for like $200 to take you. So it's not difficult to get between these two, but it's just another step that you have to take versus going somewhere that's super easy.
And that's very similar. My background is in real estate, and that's very similar to like 15 years ago in Cancun going to Tulum. Tulum is similar to how you're describing it. The tourists were those who wanted to get away from that beaten path. They want uniqueness and to do something different, get away from the crowds. And it was about 2 hours and 15 minutes to get from the airport in Cancun and to get all the way down to Tulum. So very, very similar. And now today, I don't know if you follow it, but the appreciation has grown tremendously from 15 years ago, 10 years ago. The type of travelers that are coming to La Paz, are you seeing them to be like full families, or is it retired couple, or is it young professional couples going on a vacation? How do you see that type?
Yeah, it's a mix. And I think it depends if you're looking at foreign tourists or domestic tourists. So I think when you're looking at domestic tourists, people from Mexico City, and they're coming in, they're the wealthier Mexicans that are coming to La Paz, and they're usually coming with their entire extended family. So it's kind of like a vacation. Here in Portland, we would usually take a vacation like that in Hawaii, where all the family would come from different parts of the country and get together in Hawaii. So it's sort of like that, I think, in La Paz, is that people come, grandma comes from one area and the kids come from somewhere else, and they all get together and they're all hanging out on the Malecon. Now, for foreign tourists from the United States or from Canada, it seems like I see families with teenagers, not families with a lot of young kids, because I think you have to, if you want to go snorkeling with the sea lions or scuba diving or things, those aren't things that are really great. The things that La Paz have to offer is not things that are great for really young kids. Now, there are people who are moving there who do have young kids and who are raising them in Mexico, but the tourists, not so much the young kids in the tourism, but a lot of retirees I see coming, hanging out, and also young professionals, and a lot of people who are coming to check out the city as a place to potentially relocate.
Awesome. And how long does a typical visitor, how long does he stay? A week or a long weekend, 4 days? How's that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people combine it with Cabo. This because the flights come in there often. So often someone will get a car in Cabo, spend a night or two in Cabo, maybe spend a night in Todos Santos or Los Barriles, which is along the way to La Paz, and then maybe spend 3 nights or something like that. It's not a city with a heck of a lot going on, but definitely 3 or 4 days because you want to hit the whale sharks, which are neither sharks nor whales. They're just really, really humongous fish. But you can swim with them during the season, and that is an amazing experience. That's a snorkeling experience, and you just get in the water with these. I mean, they're the size of whales, but they're really very gentle and amazing experience.
I bet that sounds
Also,
fascinating.
the sea lion babies
What,
are another thing where you can go snorkeling or scuba diving with them, and they're like little puppies, and they just, I mean, a baby is probably 10 or 15 feet long or something like that. So these, even though they're babies or they're adolescents, I guess, and they're very curious and they want to play with the people who are in the water with them. So some of those experiences, you can do that. You can do 1 or 2 of those a day, maybe. Definitely hit the beach. There's some amazing, beautiful beaches around La Paz. It's probably some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, definitely in Mexico, and not overpopulated. And you get different beaches that have different feels. Some of them with just like one restaurant on them, some of them that are just completely pristine. Lots of options when it comes to beaches.
by the way, when is that season for the whale sharks?
I think it's like winter season. I think winter season, and most of the time, I think you can go see the sea lions. I'm not sure if there is a season for that, but yeah, I want to say around March or April, the whale sharks have moved north, and of course, you can also see other whales. It's only an hour to go across the peninsula from like Todos Santos, where you can go and see go on whale tours with I think they're humpback whales out there. So a number of different options. Or La Ventana is 45 minutes away, and that is just a wind sport destination during the winter. I guess the wind is not as sure of a thing during the summer, so people actually come up here to Oregon to do all their wind sports, and then down to La Ventana. So it's a huge destination for that. So there's some other options that are just a day trip away.
Awesome. And the sailboats, there's a lot of sailboats there in La Paz, right?
Yeah,
That's
there's
cool.
definitely a big boating culture, a lot
Yeah.
of fishing going on. I am not a fisher person myself,
Okay.
but it is very popular to go fishing in the Gulf of California. They're building out more marinas because the marinas, I've heard from the boat people that the marina spaces are at a premium, that it is not an inexpensive place to have a boat, but they're building more marinas as we speak to try to cope with the amount of people that want to come by boat.
Awesome. And so what is the top 3 activities that you usually take your guests? What's some popular ones?
Well, usually if someone's taking a tour with me, they usually have come through my YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel is about people who are moving to Mexico. So less tourists and more people who are like on a relocation tour. So, but the last tour I took, I referred folks out to someone for the next day. They went on the whale shark tour, and I think later that week they did a dive with the sea lions. Those I think are some of the top things that I can recommend there. Also, heading out to Balandra Beach is probably the most beautiful beach in the area. It's actually 5 beaches that are pretty remote. I like to do Balandra Beach in the morning to experience the beauty. And then around noon, head over to Tecolote Beach, which is just 10 minutes away. And it's a little bit more of a party beach, I guess. A party beach as far as La Paz goes. In other words, there's restaurants and bars, and there's some bands going up and down the beach, and you kind of sit there and have your pina colada. you may be able to rent like a Sea-Doo or something like that, but there's definitely not a lot of Sea-Doos running around out there. I think there's maybe 2 for rent on that entire beach. So it's not something that you see the paragliders or whatever and all that activity that you see in some other destinations like Vallarta. It's kind of a downscaled version of that.
Like kayaking. Maybe a little boat. Yeah, that sounds super attractive.
A little stand-up paddleboarding around downtown. Things like that.
Now, if you're, say you're a typical couple from US or even from Canada, and they're coming down for three days, what does that experience actually look like?
Yeah, well, a lot, as I mentioned, the getting in the water, that's key. And the best time to do it is November, because the water is still warm and the air is starting to cool off a little bit. The hurricane season is behind you by November, and it's the time that I want to get in the water the most. It's just the water is still, it's not quite bath water, but it's nice and warm. So there's that. There's potentially hiking around the area, exploring the beaches, and then I think there's the food scene is another thing that people really enjoy. Is there are lots of wonderful restaurants. Now, I do have to warn people that the Baja Peninsula is more expensive than the mainland of Mexico. It's a more expensive place to live and a more expensive place to visit. La Paz is not as bad as somewhere like Cabo, which has really gotten very close to American prices. If you go to restaurants and things like that, if you go to the top restaurants, you're going to be paying close to what you would pay in a top restaurant in the United States. The way I look at it in La Paz is you can go to a top restaurant in La Paz and you're going to be paying what you would at like a mid-range restaurant in the United States. You're going to be getting amazing food, chef-prepared food, more like at Applebee's prices or something like that. So it's not what it was 5-10 years ago, where it was really inexpensive. Prices have crept up, but still affordable and really good chefs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they have some. It seems like that the restaurants are getting better and better, even in smaller pueblos. I'm finding amazing food. But so on a typical day, a lot of people like the beach scene, the water scene. That makes a lot of sense. Now, what about the evenings? They're retiring after being in the sun all day. So how would you describe evening for a typical tourist?
Yeah, it's pretty low key. It's definitely not a party place. There's not the like you mentioned, you're near Playa del Carmen, like 5th Street with the whatever the frog place or some Senior Frogs or something.
Frogs. Yeah.
It is very low key. Typically it's going out to a restaurant, watching the sunset maybe across the Bay of La Paz. It's a wonderful view. We actually live on the opposite side of the Bay of La Paz, looking back at the city. So we get wonderful sunrises over the mountains that are behind the city, and beautiful moonrises too over the city. But if you're downtown, you've got beautiful sunsets, and a lot of times it's just a walk down the Malecón. The Malecón is probably 2.5 miles long. So you can rent a bike, you can rent a scooter, you can just stroll, and it's kind of a slow pace stroll. There are shops, there are coffee shops, amazing coffee shops. I'm actually thinking about doing a video of like trying to hit like 10 coffee shops in one day, and do my favorite 10 coffee shops. And I actually would have a hard time choosing the 10 favorites because there's so many, and they're really good quality places that make you want to hang out for a lot of for the evening, and a lot of them stay open until 10 p.m. at night. There's also, it is the state capital, so there's a lot of museums. So if you're a museum person, you can go to the Whale Museum or the Cultural Museum. Most things like that are going to be mostly in Spanish, though. La Paz is still it caters to Mexican tourists more than it caters to tourists from outside the country. So if you're on the Malecón, the bars that are right there on the water, the waiters and waitresses will probably speak English, but that's not a guarantee. You go back a couple of blocks, it's almost a guarantee that they won't speak English. So it's also a great place to learn your Spanish and to practice it. It's not where when I'm in Cabo and I speak Spanish, what I found is they reply to me in English. And because they know they're just like,
Yeah, your accent there.
It's going to be much faster if we just speak English. Whereas when I'm in La Paz, if I try speaking Spanish, they will work with me. Even if they speak English, they will appreciate the fact that I'm speaking Spanish, and they will work to help me learn more Spanish.
Yeah, that's awesome. And even today, with all the technology, I mean, you don't need to know Chinese or Japanese or Spanish. All that technology is right there, readily available. You know, with the smartphones, you can read a menu, it zips it into English right away. So there's
and there are a lot of menus that are solely in Spanish. Some of them will have English below, but most of them are going to be solely in Spanish. So learn take a picture of it with your smartphone, or learn your restaurant Spanish before you come. And also, pesos are required. Now, one of the things I've seen, if you go to Cabo, a lot of things are just priced in dollars, and you pay in dollars, which I was kind of taken back by. I was confused. I was like, why are these prices so what I thought was low? And I was like, oh, wait, no, they're really high prices in dollars. They're just not priced in pesos at all. But in La Paz, you're in Mexico. So pay with pesos. And most of the places along the Malecon will take credit cards, but you definitely want to have some pesos in your wallet if you want to go get street tacos or something like that, or go to one of the smaller shops. If you're going to be tipping your waiter, they love to have cash tips, and they want those tips to be in pesos because you can't spend the dollars. They have to go take them to the bank and pay the exchange fee, and it's a whole nother process. So they want the
very, very good points there. Hey, now, when you look at La Paz, Brighton, if you look at La Paz today compared to even like in 2020, do you feel like this is still early in its development as that tourist destination, or where do you see it?
Yeah, I still feel like it's early. And actually, coming up, that I knew this interview was coming up, so I just posted something on my Facebook page saying like, hey, how many of you knew about La Paz before I mentioned anything about it, before I started a YouTube channel about it? And it's my Facebook page, so it's a lot of people who are familiar with Mexico. And I was surprised by how many people knew La Paz. I was just at a Spanish meetup last night here practicing my Spanish, and a number of people knew La Paz. It was surprising to me, but a lot of them knew it because of the scuba diving, or the fishing, things like that. That's why they knew La Paz, because it is still, it's not quite on the map yet, and it's on the map for the people who are the adventurers, I guess. And so that
nice. Have you ever taken that ferry from La Paz to? There's a couple of destinations, but I've taken it to Mazatlan and vice versa.
Oh, have you taken? Yeah, because I have not taken it yet. I've been meaning to. I know they have a new ferry, so and that ferry does have cabins that you can stay in. It's a 12-hour ferry to Mazatlan, but you can do it. I believe it's an overnight ferry, one of the directions at least. So yeah, it's something that's on my bucket list, my La Paz bucket list.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. A lot of fun. Adventure, because this has been many moons ago, and they did have cabins. So I spent. I was a lot younger before I was married, so I spent a lot of time on the roof or on the top deck, enjoying the incredible night sky. Incredible. I still remember.
Imagine.
A lot of fun. So it sounds like we're still in that interesting phase where the destination is clearly, it's starting to get more and more popular, but it hasn't quite yet reached full global awareness. So Brighton, right now, we don't have much more time. So this has been fantastic to be able to speak to you. You're an expert there. So getting your insight is greatly appreciated. As you're describing La Paz from a distance, you're living it every day, and that makes a huge difference on how our audience, how the people understand what exactly is going on over there in your neck of the woods. So again, I want to thank you for your time, your perspective, and to the visitors, and really helping us understand why La Paz is starting to stand out as a very important tourist destination. And for everyone else out there watching, if you're planning a trip to La Paz or even just starting to explore the idea, Brighton here actually shares a lot of his day-to-day experiences through his YouTube. I talked about it before, but it's called Almost Retired in Mexico. So that's a lot of fun. Really great job on describing what to do and the fun activities to do there in La Paz. He also runs a private tour locally. So if you do visit La Paz, and you want to experience the islands, the ocean, the beaches, going out and swimming with the whales, it sounds fascinating. That's now on my bucket list. So Brighton, again, really appreciate your time and being here with us today, with me, my Top Mexico team, and all of our viewers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of those who are watching. And I hope to see you over at Almost Retired in Mexico.
Now, for everyone still with us, I'd like to connect some of the dots between what Brighton just shared and why so many investors are starting to pay attention to La Paz. Because listening to everything Brighton just talked about, a few themes did stand out. Most people are discovering La Paz. Most travelers are choosing authentic destinations over crowded resort cities. And tourism continues to grow year after year. And perhaps most importantly, visitors are looking for higher quality accommodations and experiences. That creates a very interesting situation. Demand is increasing, but the supply of premium accommodations has not kept pace. And whenever you have growing demand combined with limited supply, opportunities do emerge. That's exactly why we're so excited about a project called the X Condos. The company behind the X brings extensive experience to the table, with more than 15 successful real estate projects completed throughout Mexico. Before selecting La Paz for this development, the team conducted extensive market research to identify destinations with strong long-term growth potential, increasing tourism demand, and a clear need for high-quality accommodations. The X was specifically designed to serve this growing segment of travelers who want a more upscale experience while visiting La Paz. But what makes it especially attractive isn't just the location or the design, it's the ownership model. Because many people watching today may have considered investing in vacation rentals before. Maybe you've looked at buying a condo and listing it on Airbnb. Maybe you thought about owning a property in Mexico, but you're always wondering, well, who's going to handle the guests? Who handles the cleaning? What happens when something breaks? And how do I manage all of this from another country? And the reality is that traditional vacation rentals can easily become a second job. The X was designed differently. It's structured as a condo hotel model. That means you own a deeded property, but the day-to-day operations are professionally managed. That includes bookings, the guest services, housekeeping, maintenance, rental, revenue management. All of this is handled by professionals. So instead of buying a property and creating another responsibility, you're investing in a professionally managed hospitality business that's positioned to benefit from La Paz's continued growth. And there's another aspect that many investors appreciate. You don't have to choose between lifestyle and investment. The beauty of the X is that when you're not using your unit, it can continue working for you through the rental program. So you're able to enjoy the property personally while still participating in the income potential generated by tourism. That's a combination that's difficult to find in many real estate investments. Now, before I wrap up, I'd like to leave you with 3 ways you can continue exploring this opportunity. Some of you may still be learning about La Paz and the condo hotel model. Others may be ready to take a closer look. And some of you guys may already be thinking about experiencing La Paz firsthand. Wherever you are in that journey, we have a next step for you. So option 1 would be to attend our deep dive investment webinar. If you'd like to understand the business model in a greater detail, join our past webinar featuring the developer behind the X Condos. We'll take a deeper look at the project itself, the rental pool structure, the ownership details, the projected returns, management operations, and the vision behind this development. This is the perfect next step for anyone who wants to understand the investment mechanics before moving forward. Now, option 2 is to schedule a complimentary buyer's assessment call. If you'd prefer a more personalized conversation, I invite you to book a free one-on-one buyer's assessment call with me. We'll discuss your investment goals, answer your questions, and determine whether La Paz and the X Condos are a good fit for your portfolio and lifestyle objectives. There's no obligation, just an opportunity to gain clarity and expert guidance tailored to your specific situation. And finally, option 3, experience it for yourself with the Live It Tour. If you're the type of person who prefers to see opportunities firsthand, then the Live It Tour may be your next step. This exclusive flying by experience allows you to visit La Paz, explore the destination, experience the lifestyle, tour the X Condos, and meet the people behind the project. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much you can learn from a computer screen. Sometimes the best way to understand why investors are excited about La Paz is to come down and experience it for yourself. So there you have it. You can find the links to any of these options on the description of the video. And if you cannot find it, don't worry. We'll send you an email with all of this information. So thank you for spending the time with us today. And we look forward to helping you discover what may be one of Mexico's most exciting investment opportunities. We'll see you later. Hasta luego, amigos.